which is basically the park. So for me, the fact that the first responders, police officers, were informed clearly that the people who were involved in that shooting ran to a certain direction. It's a clear indication that there were people who were involved and they ran to a certain direction and they were not found on that day, my lord.
Manje-ke uthini-ke wena-ke kulokhu kweqeda ufunda la khulunywa lamaphoyisa amabili-ke yena uConstable Mthetho kanye naye uConstable uMathebula nanjengoba besibengishilo-ke kwasekuqaleni kubufakazi bami-ke ukuthi uma ngibheka-ke idokode leli kwasekuqaleni-ke okwami kwakuwuqinisekisa noma ukuthola ukuthi babekhona yini abantu abangena kuloya muzi noma cha. Lokhu-ke ikona-ke nako-ke ekwangihola-ke ngoba-ke amaphoyisa okuqala ukufika laphayana athi uma ngabe fika atshelwa-ke ukuthi yebo kunabantu futhi labantu bagijima noma babaleka baya ngakuhlangothi oluthize futhi lolo hlangothi lolo-ke kwakuyipark okushoyo ukuthi-ke impela-ke yebo babe khona-ke abantu abangena kuloya muzi.
And this, my lord, as I've said, is in addition to the neighbors, the witnesses who witness people running out of that house after the shooting. So taking that information, which was disposed in the form of a statement, I couldn't ignore the fact that the only inclination or direction is that indeed there were intruders, because this is independent from the people who were inside the house, who were then questionable at that stage that perhaps were they telling the truth or not. These are independent people. These are police officers who were in duty, who simply responded to the crime scene, my lord, and this is what they were informed. They documented what they were informed. They had no reason to mislead. And the neighbors and the people who also indicated that they saw people running to a certain direction, they were not part of the people who were inside the house. Those were simply eyewitnesses and neighbors who simply indicated what they observed, my lord.
Futhi-ke lokhu kuhambelaneke naloko okwakhulunywaka noma okwashiwo ibona-ke omakhelwane-ke nabo abasho-ke ukuthi yebo impela babona-ke abantu begijima-ke beya ngakuhlangothi-ke oluthize futhi-ke labantu kwakungasiyona ingxenye yalabo ababephakathi-ke endlini-ke bona-ke ngaleso sikhathi-ke ekwakungekho isiqiniseko nokuthi bakhuluma iqiniso noma cha. Kodwa-ke lana sithola abantu abawomakhelwane bayasho ukuthi ngempela kunabantu abagijima baya ngakuhlangothi. Sinamaphoyisa amabili afika-ke khona lapho nawo atshelwa ukuthi cha kunabantu abaphumileke endlini bagijima baya ngakuhlangothi oluthize.
Thank you. Now, Brigadier, if we can now deal with accused number 2.
Sorry, before you start, I'm sorry. You said neighbors. There was a neighbor you said in the evidence. They say that neighbor passed away. It's Mr.
Ngasha. Yes, yeah, the senior.
The senior. Was he a policeman or what?
He was a warrant officer, was a police officer, yes, and then he retired warrant officer, yes. He disposed an affidavit and also the same indication was given, my lord.
Yebo-ke kunalo baba-ke owashona-ke uNqatshe owayeyiphoyisa-ke noma owayeyi-warrant officer-ke ngaphambilini naye une-statement ayesenzile-ke esho khona lokho.
And my lord, further one can say that in dissecting this, because at that stage it was almost like a fact-finding mission for me, because we see with this matter there are sort of two, you have obviously what is contained in the docket, but there seems to be this theory or assertion or allegations, if I can put it that way, that there were no intruders. One needed to dissect what was contained in the docket factually. Not on allegations or theories, on hearsay, on the facts that were contained in the docket. And the facts contained in the docket, my lord, indicate what I've informed the court, that there were independent witnesses other than the people who were in the house who saw people running out of that house. No one could say that the people who ran out of the house were actually the same people who were in the house. They ran, a description is given by the neighbors who were outside. That description, particularly of one of the shooters with the dreadlocks, is also given by the people who were inside the house. So there you find a common factor that there was a person described with a firearm inside the house with dreadlocks. The neighbors, particularly the lady that was sitting outside, that recalled that saying she saw when they were running away that one of the suspects had dreadlocks. Now you have to take that objectively, my lord, not in terms of hearsay, objectively. In addition to that, my lord, I've said objective evidence, which is DNA, that was found at the crime scene, excluded everyone that was in the house. What it indicated is that that DNA was left by someone else other than the person who were in the house. the persons who were inside the house. That DNA was obviously at a later stage, my lord, when these accused were actually now targeted. Their DNA were taken for comparison. I suppose when we get to that stage, I will deal with it, my lord, because as much as certain findings were made by the specialist, but they were pointers by the specialist to say there are common things that you can find on these people. And for me as an investigator, it was good enough that even if it's 1 or 2% of the DNA, for example, pointing accused number 3, it is enough for me to convince me that he was there as an investigator.
That is not his terrain. It is exclusively not his terrain. He's repeating the very same thing that I cautioned about. Mr. Kininda is not here as an expert, man. He's here as a police officer. He only needs to bring information to the court, the basis on which this court then will have to make a decision. He is not here to analyze that information as though he's the one that is going ultimately to give a judgment. He's pretty wrong, and the state is allowing to do that. I don't know if the state is doing that with a view in order to influence the mind of the court. But I'm very grateful because the court said earlier on that the court is well trained and it is experienced enough to separate the wheat from the chaff. What Mr. Kininda is doing now is only trying to influence the mind of the court with a hell lot of a chaff. What is stating now is a chaff. It's nonsensical. It should not be done, my lord. And I'm going to request the state to tell its witness to refrain from what the state's witness is doing, my lord. Because it's not here as an expert, and we're not interested in his opinion. His opinion matters not. Ultimately, it is going to be the duty of the state, on the basis of the evidence that Mr. Kininda would have submitted to this court, to argue what he is now trying to argue. Otherwise, Mr. Baloyi needs to get into the box and Mr. Kininda come into the point where Mr. Baloyi is standing. They need to swap positions. But what he's doing now is pretty nonsensical, my lord.
Okay, yes, let's hear the state. What's the state's
As a good
response?
please, my lord, I think very fresh on the article that the court referred to about courtesy in court. One would have expected Advocate Nisi to refrain from using words such as nonsensical, no matter how strongly he might object to the evidence. I think there's still a duty to show courtesy to the witness and the court. That is the first thing. The second thing is the court had asked this witness a question in elucidation, and the witness was in the process of answering the question that was posed by the court. And thirdly, as Advocate Nisi pointed out, that the court has mentioned that it's trained to separate evidence from opinion evidence.
Usingeneke kulolu daba ke ukuthi ke ufakazi besaphendula ke umbuzo inkantolo ubuzile esho ke ukuthi ke kwakunezinkulumo ke eyayikhona ke lana futhi ke kukhona ke nale information eyayikhona ke kwidokodo okwami ke kwakuukuthi ke manje ke ngithole ke ekuyikona kodwa ke ngingalandeli izinsolo ezikhona noma izinkulumo ezikhona ke ukuthi cha abekho abantu ababengenile lapha yana kodwa ke ngibheke lokhu okukhona ke kwidokodo bese ke manje ke ngibheke nalokho ukuthi cha akunabantu ke ababengenile manje ke unabantu ababesendlini ke abashoyo ukuthi omunye wabantu ababephakathi ke endlini wayenama dreadlocks ekwakuyena ke wayephethe isibhamu ube nabo omakhelwane abathi ke kulabo abantu abababona ke bephuma endlini ke ukuthi ke noma sebegijima ke noma bebaleka beya kuhlangothi oluthize omunye wabo wayenama dreadlocks aqhubekeke futhi esebenziseke ukuthi kwakufanele manje ngibhekeke ukuthi ke manje kuloko okhunywa yilabantu ke kuyinhlangothi ezahlukene uthi ke kwabe kusekhona nalobufakazi ke bolibefuzo noma ke phecelezi ke iDNA wabe esenza ke ekhuluma ke ngaye umsolwa ke wesithathu ekula ummeli wakho asukume khona ke ethi asithi ke mhlambe bekukhona ke okwatholakala lapha yana kwiDNA leyo noma ke u2% kumina noma u1% kodwa nje okusho ukuthi yebo ke wayekhona ke wabe esesho ukuthi asithi ke mhlambe umsolwa ke wesithathu ekula ummeli ke asukume khona ke ukuthi nje lokho loyo 2% kumina ke wawaneleke ukuthi ngisho ukuthi yebo impela wayekhona lapho.
Thank you. the state will request that those gratuitous and unbridled insults by Advocate Mnisi regarding the witness be ignored, my lord.
There's no insult. The word nonsensical is there in the dictionary. If Mr. Baloyi is not aware of it, I can refer him to that word. And the definition of that word simply means that it makes no sense. It is nonsensical. I don't know how insulting that word is, right? And I heard him mentioning that there's an article on a Sunday that he read regarding court ethics and stuff like that. That starts with him. He knows what a duty of a witness who is an investigating officer is when that witness is giving his evidence. It is Mr. Baloyi's duty, first and foremost, as a leader of that witness, to lead that witness specifically on what that witness should come and tell this court, not to allow that witness to be on an escapade and wantonly come and give evidence that it is not in his terrain to come and give. Mr. Baloyi has been allowing Mr. Kininda to give opinion evidence. Mr. Baloyi has allowed this witness on a number of occasions to come up with suggestion that the evidence that is already before court demonstrated that accused number 3 was involved in this matter. He now mentions DNA. Previously, he also mentioned a firearm. It consistently allows this witness, my lord, to go on an escapade on evidence that it's, at this stage it is inadmissible. It's basically giving this witness a role that he himself should actually be playing. For instance, the court has simply asked a question about Mr. Ngachi, whether or not he was still alive or what. This witness now goes out of the rail, it goes out of the question that the court has specifically asked, and Mr. Baloyi allows that to happen. And then he stands up and says there's an article that has been written by the honorable judges of this court on how ethics is. I am not here, my lord, representing myself. I am here to represent the interest of accused number 3. And I cannot allow witness such as evidence such as the one that is coming from Mr. Kininda to go through the record and miss it down here. I'll never allow that, my lord. Otherwise, I'll be doing injustice in the representation of Mr. Mncube here. But first and foremost, it starts with Mr. Baloyi himself. Thank you, my lord.
To save time, my lord, we'll then proceed. I've already mentioned that the witness was commenting on the question that was asked by the court. We had already moved to the situation of accused number 2 when the court asked this witness to comment on something. We cannot interrupt the witness when he answers to a question that was answered by the court and to which the court is entitled to ask. That is the simple fact of the matter. And as we pointed out, my lord, we don't understand the objection that was raised by Advocate Mnisi, as the court pleases.
I will make declarations and conclusions regarding the evidence tendered in this court, whether that evidence proves or disproves anything. And I'll quote the reasons why, if I agree or disagree with that evidence. Okay.
Thank you.
Mina-ke uzothatha-ke isinqumo-ke ukuthi-ke ubufakazi obethulwayo-ke lobo bufakazi buvumelekile noma cha, ngizosho futhi-ke nangokomthetho ukuthi umthetho uthini mayelana nalokho.
As the court pleases, my lord, I agree with the court on that it is the duty of the court to analyze the evidence, my lord, at the end of the case. However, my lord, I'm also standing on the point of objection so that it will go on record that it was pointed out, my lord, during the trial stage, that the way that the evidence is elicited at this point in time is not the correct procedure, my lord. Especially, my lord, the reference that has been made by the witness to the Ngashe senior witness, my lord. That statement was never handed in this court. There was no application for the handing over of that statement as hearsay statement. So in other words, my lord, it is not proper before this court. And the witness has made reference to the content of that evidence.
Yeah, no. Where do I get the evidence? I got the evidence here.
Yes, my lord.
When I came to know that there's a neighbor who has made a statement, who actually also had a commotion, and there's another neighbor also who saw the deceased with his back in a white skipper or sweater
Yes.
in the kitchen and had commotions. Somebody jumped into the yard and ran outside again. But the evidence of being a policeman who was there, I heard it from here. Am I right or wrong? I mean,
Yes.
how would I know otherwise?
For the one for the police, my lord, I don't have objections because those police testified.
No, Mtetwa and that gentleman, I don't have
Yes,
a problem.
yes, my
I
lord.
mean, Ngashe.
Ngashe,
Because
yes,
I
my
wanted to
lord.
know where Ngashe is.
Yes.
And I was told that he's deceased.
Ngashe is deceased, my lord, and his statement was never submitted to this court as evidence, my lord. And therefore, no reference should be made to that statement or can be made to that statement, my lord.
When you say no reference should be made to that statement, no reference should also not be made to the evidence of the son of Ngashe. What's his name, by the way? Kaya. Kaya said, I was with my father. You remember that evidence?
My lord, the son is alive. The son has testified.
You don't know what I'm getting to, you see.
Oh, sorry, my lord.
The son also spoke about the father
Yes.
having seen whatever.
Yes.
That's all. And then the
Yes.
father is dead.
Yes, then let's correct the record, my lord. If we are making reference to the evidence of the Ngashe's son, then it must be directed to that portion of evidence that Ngashe's son said 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
But reference being made to the statement made by Senior, who passed away, and his statement has not been submitted as evidence. My lord, I'm raising an objection
Okay,
on that
fine.
point only.
Fine, okay.
Yes, my
Let's
lord.
go on.
And then also, secondly, on the issue of this witness giving analysis or making reference to the expert evidence, my lord, which is the forensic evidence which was led in this court, who is now saying, out of that expert evidence, I can be able to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. He's not an expert, my lord. He's not allowed to make any reference and to analyze on that part of evidence. He's just a police officer, this one. As the court pleases, my lord.
All right, yes, Mr.
As a court, please, we really don't. The
Now, Advocate Ngombezulu, him not being here today, does it mean he could be withdrawing from the case or he's just sick? However, Advocate Timnisi stepped in as his proxy. Kininda says that he doesn't care what the DNA expert says, but according to him, as an investigating officer, the mere fact that 1% or 2% of the accused's DNA was found on the hat means that the accused were at the crime scene. Kanti, isn't the DNA supposed to be 99.9% to actually prove you were at the crime scene? Mr. Kininda, sir, we want your evidence and not your conclusion. After he said that, Advocate Timnisi referred to what Kininda is saying is nonsensical. This didn't go off well. I think Kininda took this the wrong way. So what he said absolutely makes no sense. Well, to me, I don't see anything wrong or anything insulting with this word nonsensical. He was just calling him to order. I think many of us have the wrong definition of this word, nonsensical. I mean, why would he feel offended though? Is it because he's lying or something? We don't know. And as he was saying this, if you have a close look at Advocate Balu's hands, you could see that he actually tried to stop Geninga from continuing with his statement. It's like he was saying, stop, you've said enough. But Geninga just went on and on and on. That is when Advocate Mshololo stated that he is not a DNA expert. He is just a police officer. So stick to what you know. That's just how I took it. He should stick to what he knows and he should stop making conclusions where he is not experienced. I don't know. So this was part one before they went to the tea break. So let's see what happened when they returned back from the tea break.
We just want to show you Exhibit BB. Exhibit BB is on the screen.
Yes.
You can use that exhibit
Yes,
in
my lord.
relation to your evidence.
Yes, indeed. So I showed him this identikit, my lord, and I draw.
Which
this-
one?
I don't have. But the suspect with a hoodie, my lord. The one on the left, on my left, with a hoodie, wearing the hoodie.
So what did you do about it? He said you showed him.
I showed him and I said, I'm of the view that this is him. That was my view, that I think this person resembles him.
Engakwenza ke kuye ngikhuluma naye ke umsolo wesibili ngase ngimtshengisa ke umsolo lona ke lona ofake isigqoko ke lokho noma lokho kubizwa ngokuthi ke ihudi ke ngathi kuyena ke lona ke umsolo wakhe uwena ngathi lona uwena lo.
Yeah, he
Yilokho
resembles
engakusho
him.
ke.
He looks like him.
Noba ufana nawe lo.
Yes. There was a denial, my lord. He said it's not true. It's a question of mistaken identity. That I remember.
Washo ke noma ke akuphika ke wathi cha lapho ke kwenziwa nje na iphutha ke lokho ngiyakhumbula kona.
I do recall, my lord, that I warned him according to his rights again and cautioned him to consider telling the truth. And then I walked away because he was at the car now, at the vehicle that was used by Sergeant Mohane.
Ila engase ngisho khona noma ke ngase ngimtshela ke futhi ke ngamalungelo akhe ke futhi ke ngasho ke na ke ukuthi kufanele acabangisise ke ukuthi ke akhulume ke iqiniso ngabe sengihamba ke ngoba wayesesemotweni ke manje imoto le ayihamba ngayo no Sergeant Mohane.
When I was walking away, my lord, I just don't remember which of the two members called me to say he wants to speak to me. This is now accused 2.
Uma sengihamba ke angisakhumbule ke ukuthi imuphi ke kulamalunga ke esiphoyisa ke noma amaphoyisa ke alangibiza esho ke ukuthi ke umsolo wesibili ke ufisa ukuthi akhulume nami.
My lord, when I returned, what he then said amounted to what led to the arrangement of the confession that was taken by Lieutenant Colonel Rapado.
Uma sengibuyela kuyena ke abakusho kumina ke ikona ke ekwaholela ekuthini ke kube sekunalesi statement ke manje esikhona ke lesi esabhalwa noma esathathwa uyena uKolonel Rapado.
And he was cautioned, my lord, in terms of his constitutional rights. I've dealt with this thing. I just don't want to burden the record by repeating the same thing, my lord. But I did caution him in terms of his constitutional rights when he made a confession, because in essence, he admitted that he was involved. He implicated accused number 1, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay.
Mase kulokho ke manje ngase ke manje ngimtshela ke futhi ngimxwayisa ke ngamalungelo akhe ke ngoba kulokho ke awayesekukhuluma ke manje ke la wayesevuma khona ke futhi ke esho ke futhi nokubandakanyeka kwakhe ke noma ekhuluma efaka yena ke umangalelo wokuqala umsolo wokuqala owesithathu owesine kanye futhi nowesihlanu.
Further mentioning my recollection, my lord, Mrs. Kelly Kumalo as the trigger point or the person who hired them to kill the deceased.
Ekusho ke nokuthi ke umuntu ke okwawuyena ke oweza ke kubona ke ukukhulumisana nabo ke ukuthi ke abulale umufi kwaba uyena uMiss Kelly Khumalo.
I further recall the vehicle, the mention of a VW Polo being mentioned, my lord, by accused number 2 as the vehicle that was used during the commission of this offense.
Ngiyakhumbula ke esho nokusho ke yena ke umsolo wesibili ke ekhuluma ngemoto ke AVW iPolo.
Yes.
Esho ukuthi yona ke imoto eyayisetshenziswa ke uma ngabe kwenziwa kona lokho.
I further recall, my lord, that he mentioned that accused 3 was the one with the dreadlocks, and that is the person who fired the shot that killed the deceased.
Ngiyakhumbula esho futhi ke nokuthi ke umsolo wesithathu uyena ke owayenama dreadlocks futhi ke uyena ke owadubula ke umufi ukuthi azashona.
He further placed the role, my lord, of each accused. To say in other words, accused number 1 was standing outside, which indeed, my lord, was for the first time, actually got a collaboration to confirm what accused 1 said in the 2 previous confessions, my lord.
Wabe esesho ke manje esesho ukuthi ke umsolo ngamunye ke ukuthi ke yini ke awayenza ke ngalolanga esho ke nokuthi ke umsolo wokuqala yena ke wayeme ngaphandle ke yila engangisengiqala khona ke manje ukuthi ngithole ke into ke manje ke ehambisana ke nalokho ngoba ke kuyitatimende ezimbili ke zangaphambili zakhe ke umsolo accused number 1 he said
Yes.
zakhe umsolo wokuqala yila mase sengithola inkulumo ehlanganayo noma basho into eyodwa.
If you say the statement of accused number 1, which statement are you referring to?
I'm referring to the confessions taken by Colonel Mboto, my lord.
Ngikhuluma ngaso ke istatement ke noma ke sokugonyuluka ke lesi esasenziwe kuyena uKolonel Mbotho.
But also Lieutenant Colonel Khatebe, my lord, because he points out that you can see even in the photos as to where he was standing. He places himself outside.
Kodwa ke akupheleli lapho ke kodwa nakuyena ke uLieutenant Colonel Khatebe ngoba ke uyabona ke noma nakwisithombe lesi ke ebesiveziwe ke lana la akhomba khona ke la ashoyo ke ukuthi wayeme kuphi nendawo.
Just a minute. We're just going to show you the photo which we showed to you yesterday just to illustrate the point.
Yes.
Yes, you can use the photo to illustrate your evidence.
Yes, my lord. So that is the photo I was referring to, which was taken during the pointing out on the 5th of June 2020, where accused 1 is pointing the position where he was standing, which places him outside the house, because we know that the shooting incident happened inside the house, my lord.
Lesi ke isona isithombe lesi engikhuluma ngaso ke sange-5 zika June 2020 ila khona ke umsolo wokuqala ashoyo ke noma khombayo ke ukuthi wayeme kuphi ke nendawo la yena ke ayibeka ngaphandle ke endlini ngoba siyazi ukuthi uma ngabe kudutshulwa lokho kwenzeka ngaphakathi endlini.
Just for record purposes, that is exhibit GG1.
Okay, my lord, yes. Noted.
And just place the photo number on record.
So this will be photo number 16, 16, my lord.
Isithombe lesi ke number 16.
Yes.
My lord, I wanted to say, yeah, so I said at that stage, especially the part where it says accused 1 was standing outside, that collaboration was then, for me, it actually confirmed what accused 1 has been saying all along.
Manje ke uma ke esefinyelela kuleyo ndawo ke umsolo wesibili ke la ashoyo ke khona ukuthi umsolo wokuqala wayeme kuphi ke nendawo ke lokho ke kwase ke manje seqinisekisa ke lokho bekade kushiwo umsolo wokuqala ngaso sonke isikhathi ukuthi wayeme kuphi nendawo.
I'm emphasizing this point, my lord.
Yes. Yes.
Can
Then
I-
don't make any inferences lest you draw some heat on my left-hand side. Just,
All right.
Just present facts.
All right, my lord. I'm saying this, my lord, because before we approach, and this is a fact, before we approach accused number one, we had a statement of Mr. Absalom Zungu, who simply directed us to accuse 1 and 2.
Okay. Ngikusho lokhu ke ngoba ke ngaphambilini kokuthi ngiye kuyena ke umsola woqala ke sasinaso ke istatement sakhe umnumzana uAbsalom Zungu okuyena ke manje owayesikhomba ke noma esikhombisa ke ngakuhlangothi kamsola woqala nowesibili.
And at that stage also, my lord, it matched the statement of the people who were inside the house who said they saw 2 suspects who came inside the house and demanded cell phone and money.
Futhi ke lokho kwase kuqinisekisa ke lokho okwashiwo ke abantu ke ababesendlini ukuthi kwangena ababili ke ngaphakathi endlini base befuna ke imali kanye nomakhalekhukhwini.
So I'm saying, my lord, in essence, when accused 1 said he was outside, before we go to accused number 2, I did not believe him. I thought he was misleading when I read, first when he told me and subsequently obviously confirming what is contained in the confession. I thought, no, something is amiss because I've got 2 people who fit now, obviously, who were supposed to be inside the house. I was not aware of someone who was standing outside, so I didn't believe it, my lord. But the point I'm going to is that now when accused 2 came into the picture, he now confirms that there were actually more than 2 people, and indeed accused 1 was standing outside.
Manje ke engiyakona ke noma ke engifisa ukuthi ngikusho ke manje ukuthi umsolo woqala uma ngabe esengitshela ukuthi yena ke wayemi kuleya ndawo ke ayikhombayo ke ngaphandle ke lapho ke angizange ngimkholwe ke ngoba ke ngase kungahlanganike kumina ke manje ngoba ke la nginabantu ababili ke manje futhi ke abafithayo ke kulencazelo enginikiwe kodwa manje uma sekufika ke umsolo wesibili ke engitshela ke ukuthi umsolo woqala wayemi kuphi nendawo ngaphandle nokuthi futhi ke babengekho babili abantu babe lapho kodwa ngaphezulu kwalokho.
My lord, I do recall that accused 5 was mentioned as the person who drove the said getaway car.
Ngiyakhumbula ngitshelwa ke futhi ukuthi umsolo wesihlanu ke kwakuyena owayeshayela imoto leyo ekwakuhanjwa ngayo.
And that accused 4, I think, was one of the stoppers, my lord.
Nokuthi ke umsolo wake wesine kwakuwomunye wabantu ababemile ke lapho bebhekile ukubiza ngokuthi ke ubrigadier istopa noma istopa.
My lord, I don't recall the exact amount, but I do know that it was also mentioned to me that accused 2 was paid. He received some money, a certain share. I'm just not sure about the amount. I don't want to put the wrong figure.
Ngiyakhumbula ke ngitshelwa ke ukuthi ke impela ke umsolo wesibili ke wakhokhelwa ke noma ke ikhona ke imali awayinikwa angisakhumbuli nje ukuthi kwakuyimali ke angifuni nje ukuthi ngisho ke inani engasilona.
What is important, my lord, is that, and I'll go back to what followed obviously after our discussion. What is important is that when I received then the confession statement from Colonel Rapadu, I then noticed that what he told me was indeed contained in the annexure of Exhibit HH.
Ngizobuyela ke kona ke lokho kodwa ke engakubona ke noma engaqaphela ke ukuthi ke lokho awayengitshele kona ke uma sengithola ke manje istatement lesi esasithathwe nomasipala uyena ke uKolonel Rapadu ke kuyona ke lokho kubizwa ngokuthi ke i-annexure ke yakhe ke Exhibit HH kwakukhona kubhaliwe lapho.
Just a minute. Yes.
My lord, I was further able to establish that he was in his clear sober.
Okay, so Beninda says Ntanzi admitted that he was involved in the crime and that Kelly Khumalo is the one who hired the hit on Senzo. Now, each role of the accused was stated, where Sfiso Zungu was the driver, Ndumiseni was the stopper, Muzi was a guard at the door, Bongani was the intruder, and then Gadla was the one who fired the shot. Now, since ever we had like 2 stoppers at the door and at the premises, why did the stoppers allow Longa Twala to run? How did he escape? How did he pass all these people? And him managing to escape, why didn't he call the police? Why didn't he call for help? If I was in that situation, if I get a chance to escape a house that we are trapped in by the intruders, the first thing that I will do when I get a chance to escape is call for help. If I don't have my phone with me, I would literally ask someone on the street to borrow me their phone so I can call the police. Did Longatwala do any of this? No. The question is why? But anyway, we wish Mr. Ngomezulu a speedy recovery. We can't wait to see him back in court. I wish whatever he's going through, he pulls through and gets well soon. And whoever viewed this video, thank you so much for watching. Could you kindly subscribe to my channel? It will mean a lot to me. And yeah, ke a leboga.